Hi guys, my name is Mitch. I'm the lead developer of the 3D Hive Builder, and today's tutorial is about creating consumable and inventory spawn triggers and placing these triggers on the map. So hopefully at this point in time you've looked through all of the tutorial videos about creating items, but now we need to look into attaching these items to triggers that we can then place on the map or in the 3D world. And so most visual things that you see in the 3D worlds come from triggers. So we need a way of linking them up together, and this is how we're going to do it. So I've already created two items, one consumable, one inventory item. So if you guys haven't got to that point, you should follow the last tutorials to get to this point, and then follow on from here. Okay, great. So the first trigger we're going to create is a consumable trigger, and we're going to roll over the Add Plus button, and we're going to click the Trigger button. And you'll notice that I've already got my 3D world. We've got two triggers here. I've already got my 3D world set up to preview. So I've got one team spawn in there that you guys don't need to look at the moment, but the next one below that is our new blank trigger. So like the items, when we click on that, we open up our settings panel, and we need to fill out some information first. So we can enter a trigger name. My trigger name for this one is going to be my consumable trigger spawn. Okay? And the trigger type, although you don't see consumable here at the start, most of these triggers have what we call subcategories. So what we want to do is basically spawn this item on the map, and spawn's another word for generate or show on the map. So if we click on the spawn trigger, you'll see that we actually get another set of sub-triggers, and all of these sub-triggers actually match items that we've created. So you see here, this is quite relevant. We've got consumable, inventory, helmet, weapon, costume, character, and seed. So we can actually spawn any one of these items. The first one I want to spawn is the consumable item. So I'm going to click consumable. So we've chosen the trigger type spawn, and we've chosen the subcategory of the spawn trigger to consumable. Then let's have a look at the next most important thing, is the linked item. Now the linked item actually refers back to your item library, but it'll only show us consumable items that we've created. So that's the one there. I've got my consumable item here. I'm going to click on that, and we're not going to go into too much detail with these other things, but I'll just tell you here that we've got a spawn regeneration time. Now the spawn regeneration time refers to how often this item appears on the map after it's been taken by a player character. So if we do generate it once a player walks into that item, it will disappear, or it will get stored in their inventory, and it will never reappear back on the map. But say, for example, if we slide this to 10, what's going to happen is when a player comes and picks up that item on the map, after 10 seconds, that item will then reappear in that same spot where the user picked it up. So I'm going to set mine to only generate once, and that's all I'm going to talk about in this panel for the moment. We've got some more advanced tutorials that talk about checking and action conditions later on, but for the moment we're just going to keep it simple. So we selected our spawn trigger subcategory, we selected the linked item that we've created in our items library over here, and we can select a spawn regeneration time, so how long it takes for the item to reappear on the map for another player to go and collect, or for yourself to go and collect again. Great, so I'm going to save the changes, and you'll notice that my consumable trigger spawn then gets linked up with an image of the item that we've linked to it. So now what we're going to do is actually create the inventory version of this. So it's very similar. We're going to add another trigger, another blank trigger, okay, and we're going to click on this to bring up the settings panel, and we're going to do very much the same thing that we did for the consumable trigger. So we're going to I'm going to give this a name, my inventory trigger spawn, okay, and I'm going to select a trigger type. Now the trigger type is a spawn, But the difference here is that instead of selecting consumable, we're going to select inventory as the subcategory, because that's what we want to put in the world. So I've selected my linked item, and we can go down here and let's make the spawn regeneration time 10. So you'll notice here that the settings are very similar, very similar. And there you go. Once I've done those, I'm going to save my changes. And great, so now if I look at my trigger library, I now have 3 things there. I've got a team spawn, which you don't need to worry about for this current time. I've got my consumable spawn and my inventory spawn that I've just created. So for any single item that you want to appear on the map, you have to create a trigger or a spawn trigger that links back to that item. So great, so now what we've done is now we've got these 2 triggers here. We can now place these triggers in our world. So if we roll over the menu options and click the back button, we'll go back to our map editor. And if you're not aware of the map editor, we've got a tutorial video here about just this interface in particular. So the important thing to note here is that we have tabs here called tiles and triggers. So we want to make sure that we select the triggers tab. And you'll notice that those triggers that were in our logic editor and appear now in our triggers tab here. So we've got my consumable trigger and my inventory trigger. Now to place these, it's simple. We just click on the one we want to place. Then that trigger becomes active in the active window. And now we can place this trigger as many times as we want. So I can place this 1, 2, 3 times. So I've placed my consumable trigger 3 times. And now I'm going to place my inventory trigger 3 times. So I click on my inventory trigger spawn over here. You'll see that it becomes active in the active window. And then I can place it on the map 3 times. And there you go. What we have effectively done here is created a trigger spawn with the items consumable and inventory and placed them on the map. Any triggers that you create in the logic editor can be placed this way. Great. Thank you guys.